off-the-shelf solution available. You reviewed the options against your needs. What was your conclusion in terms of the design of the best fit solution? What were the 3 or 4 key things that you were looking to get out of the design you were going to come up with?
Well, I think that I mean, I suppose the main elements from a design perspective and what the outcome was is to look at oversight and control, i.e. who sits in my work, you know, from a client perspective, who sits in the office, who has access to my systems, you know, from a cybersecurity perspective, you need to understand what kind of people have badge access, what kind of people have access to your systems. And so that oversight and control piece is really important, especially for non-employees. You know, you need to really be able to understand that. And it's amazing the amount of organizations that don't really have a full understanding of people that are in their business. You know, you'll go through a very rigorous process, as Dan said, from an onboarding on a permanent side, but there's a large amount of contingent workers that are quite simply can join organizations in a very straightforward fashion. So control and oversight is definitely one. Any elements around cost control, which goes sort of hand in hand with oversight and control. You know, that you must understand what the costs are. You know, most organizations should be able to say, look, you know, we have X amount of workers working in X country that's spending Y. You know, that's the factor that we need to be able to truly understand. So the cost element is really important. And then the third point, I suppose, is the candidate journey and the branding of that candidate journey. So how does that worker feel? You know, as I mentioned before, the contingent populations are changing. So how are they being onboarded? You know, I think Dan alluded to it before. You know, if it's a very long process, you know, it's a difficult process, you know, are they going to be that inclined to come back to you? And that's the thing with contingent populations, is that they return, you know, and so they may work with you for 6 to 12 months and they may come back in a year's time or 2 years time. And so the fact is, you want them to have a great experience, you want them to have a good journey with you, and so they want to come back, because in an incredibly competitive market, that could be the one thing that makes them decide to return to your organization, is the journey and the experience that they've had. So for me, they're I suppose the main, you know, 3 elements that I would say is probably what I was looking for from a design and solution perspective.
And Dan, how has that influenced the design of the Giant solution, and what have you done to help in those scenarios that Ian's outlined?
Yeah, I think Ian's really nailed down what the main themes are as to what we were thinking about when we started to look at putting together our solution, but also just building out the service range of the business over the last 6-7 years. There's a lot of different cogs to a wheel when you're looking at managing a contingent workforce, as in lots of different suppliers. Each supplier can have lots of different technology. Ian's alluded to a whole variety of technology that can be used just on the talent attraction piece before you then start looking at moving into onboarding. So what we tried to do is look at that and go, okay, you know, if we can operate a solution that is candidate driven with a good candidate experience from start to finish, where data is not having to move around through lots of different platforms, but can go through the same platform and go through that onboarding journey, then there could be some big benefits to that. So we've looked to build out the service range and add things like the pre-employment checking business in, the international payroll arm now, which we've launched, to make sure that if we've got all those things in-house, if a business needs to attract talent from lots of different areas or lots of different means, we can centralize that candidate experience. And it starts with that first with Giant. So if we focus on the candidate experience, we make that slick, that means that the hire is going to benefit from easy rejoining. We know there's a lot of talk in the talent attraction world around employer value proposition. I'm a big believer there's the same thing in a contractor value proposition, especially if you're looking at talent pooling, which Ian's talked about. If someone has a great experience in coming into the business, they're much more likely to take another assignment when it comes back round. So just looking at trying to make sure that it's as easy as possible for the candidate. Now, if that is been done because you've got data that's flowing between the services and you've got visibility to that, that then starts to address one of the other key points that Ian's touched on, which is the oversight and visibility, getting control back on what is going on here, because there's a pinch point of how the workers are being onboarded, what methodologies are being used to payroll those people, and we can report on that. So a hirer gets full visibility on exactly how many contingent workers they've got, which often people don't know, which suppliers are involved, and therefore know, who are the rogue ones and who aren't. And actually, there would be no space for any rogue providers because there's controls there that are being managed. And also the ability for us to be able to put a solution in place, which isn't necessarily built out for a 2,000 head FMCG business, but actually a solution that can work for someone who's got 20 contingent workers, because if they're white collar guys that are paid decent day rates, you couldn't be talking about significant £1 million of the spend there on a small population. Now, that's not small fry, especially in any market, but certainly now with the way things are tightening up. If you don't know how many people you've got, if you can just squeeze that by one hire, you're going to cost justify a solution. So we wanted to make sure we put something into play with our experience in the market, helping large organisations manage those contingent workforces and be able to deliver something that can work for a business and scale with them as they grow. So if we go and, if they've got a small population, great. If it's just UK, no problem. If it's a larger population or they've got aspiration to move into other countries, then we can facilitate that as well and flex. Because the big benefit for Giant is because we're not recruitment driven, we're never going to touch recruitment. Recruitment businesses are key customers to Giant. They do a fantastic job on the talent attraction piece. And we absolutely work in partnership with them on most of the deals that we do. It means we can take a step back and get really into the detail of nailing down, quality of data, candidate experience, value add things like accessibility tools on all the portals. So it's multi-language, people with hearing and visibility issues, all that good stuff built out, rather than getting sidetracked by focusing on talent attraction, which is a huge challenge in itself. So we just wanted to work on that and take that forward and give people the flex, because we've no bias on the talent attraction piece. It doesn't matter whether there's an MSP in situ, whether there's a PSL's recruitment PSL in place or a team's doing in-house talent attraction themselves. We can aggregate all that and help put a nice bundle around that contingent workforce and just sort of lift the lid on what sometimes can be a big Pandora's box, and you feel calm and in control because you've got full visibility to what's going on.